crosswalks generally. And we'd like to put in some bike racks in those locations. So the bike, these spaces are about 10 feet wide or long and about 8 feet wide. So, I'll let you guys decide on how you want to put them in there and what kind of bike racks you're interested in, installing. I kind of have a kind of a preference, but I'm not going to share that with you because I don't want to taint your creativity. Yeah, so I mean, I was envisioning them kind of going right up against the curb, and then the bikes would be able to kind of drive right into the bike rack, and that would give significant increase in bike parking throughout the downtown. So
here's an example of one of these, Dave.
So an example of one is right in front of the Village Green, right in front of the town hall. There's another one probably right in front of, right on the corner of Mechanic and Main on the west side. There's another one by,
these are right at the
kind of going up the hill by the tarot card location. So they're usually right in front or right after the crosswalk, and they're delineated by, instead of just having a white box, it's a smaller white box with a yellow inner box inside. So those mean that those are going to be dedicated to bike racks. So the world is your oyster here. So you guys can choose what you want to do, and they were specifically set up to do that. And we talked with the town manager and the select board, and this is kind of something they were kind of wanting to do.
So just clarification, would it be at every sidewalk almost? Either on one side or the other?
I mean, I can give you the exact locations. I think really the mission here is to look up, a bike rack that you guys are looking to probably put in these spots. And I can send you a little drawing with all of the exact locations if you like.
That would be great. And the other question, wait, hang on a second, Andrew, and then I'll get to you. The other question was, I slipped my mind. Andrew, go ahead. Now that your mouth is full.
Dave, any suggestions as to where to look, and what are the dimensions again?
They're roughly 8 feet wide by 10 feet long.
10 feet along the road.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have this kind of fascination with these fish sculpture bike racks. They're shaped like a fish, but I mean, I don't know. That's kind of, maybe someone thinks it's corny. I think they're kind of neat. They're kind of artistic. They have different animals, but I think the fish is a kind of a cool one. So this is your thing, not my thing. I mean,
I remember, Dave.
Yeah.
I remember my question was, what's your time frame? When do you need to know?
Next week. No, I'm just you have the winner.
Okay, great.
We probably want to get them. We probably want to get them installed, in the springtime.
And that link, Allison, that you just sent, is that for that? Is that for that rack?
No,
or
no.
Is that some ideas?
I don't
That's some
actually,
ideas.
It's just to show basically how much space you're. When I was talking to Anita yesterday, she seemed a little confused by the general concept, and so much so that it actually made me question whether it was reasonable at all, actually. But it's very common, just putting the whole idea is just, it's a smaller parking spot, use the parking spot to put bike racks instead. But it looks like Linda has her hand up, so I feel a little bad that.
Yeah, I'm using the.
What's that? What is that? Thanks, Linda.
Yeah, so I'm using that. I don't know if we should be using that hand raise or just butt in like we normally do. Trying to find the right protocol, Mr. Chairman. But does this compete with scooters? Dave, do they have?
There was a motorcycle parking space, I think, in a couple of these spots. I think we thought that, you know, you can get many more bicycles in a bike rack than a scooter in a rack, but that's, you know, there's all kinds of parking spaces, I think, for scooters, I think. There was a motorcycle spot, and we just didn't mark it as a motorcycle spot. We left it, like I said, with the yellow box inside the white box. And we were thinking that a bike rack would be a better way of trying to promote people using bicycles in the downtown and in general.
But scooters will have a place of their own.
Scooters can park in a parking space generally. There's some smaller spaces and there's some larger spaces.
Okay. And I'm only raising that because I know that more people are using scooters too, and then, you know, or a crossover between an electric bike and a bike.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think an electric bike, they'll go in those racks a lot of times. I see a lot of the electric bikes in the bike racks at the Mechanic Street parking lot. So,
Good.
yeah, I think it's, you know, it's a good opportunity. I think it's promoting bicycle use and giving people that do use a bicycle a place to put their bicycle, and it's not just in one spot. It's kind of from one end of the downtown to the other. So,
It seems like that would be something after they are installed that we would let people know. We would write a press release. I think it's great if Rockport did something similar, just because more and more people are getting into those electric bikes. So knowing how they can maneuver around and find a place to legitimately park.
yeah, and the other thing too is, you know, we compromised with the 10 feet away from the crosswalk when it should be 20. But when you go and put the bike rack in front of it, you're really kind of opening up that line of sight for the pedestrian walking into the crosswalk. So it's kind of it's kind of getting the 20 feet with still allowing some kind of parking for, you know, bicycles.
I've noticed it is hard to see the pedestrian these days in downtown Camden.
Well, it was more difficult when there was a parking space right up against the crosswalk. You couldn't even see somebody until they were beyond the car. Now, at least you can kind of see them. And then when you put the bike rack there, you'll be able to see them even further back. It really makes a big difference.
I've noticed that, Dave. I think it's great. People aren't just stepping out from behind a van or something.
Exactly. It was nerve-wracking before. You just didn't know if someone was going to jump out from behind a car and you were going to hit them. Even as slow as you can go, someone could still kind of jump out from behind a bigger car or a van, and you know, it's kind of nerve-wracking sometimes when you can't see someone until the last minute.
Hey, Dave, there was a comment, there's a chat going on, but the idea of not pulling up bike racks in the wintertime, just because there are more and more people still riding year round.
We, you know, if you guys would get these things quicker, I'd probably potentially put them, you know, in place. I think I'd have to develop some kind of mechanism where I'd pull them before storm, if there was a big storm coming, just because when there's a parking ban, they'll be in the way of the winter snow removal in the downtown. It's a little bit of a challenge, but you know, maybe it's something we can work around.
Dave, a budget? Because like the link you just sent, Allison, has a bicycle pump built into it, which is pretty darn cool.
If you guys could come up with a number fairly quickly, I could put it in this year's budget. You know what I mean? That would really be helpful. I can probably put a placeholder in there now. But I can look at what, you know, an average cost of one is and kind of put that in there. I don't dare tell you at this point in time, but I can do that real quick and send you an email.
All right. That'd be good, just to get some idea, because the bike racks are actually really expensive, the industrial style ones. Will?
Be nice if you guys could get like some kind of matching kind of funding for, you know what I mean, from some organization that promotes that kind of thing. That would
It's actually not an uncommon grant specifically for bike racks. I'm sorry, Will.
Yeah, just a brief question regarding your preference, Dave, with the fish in mind and having walked around Belfast recently. Is this like one particular style and they'll all be the same, or are we talking a variety of styles, or does that really matter to you?
It's not about me, it's about you guys, and it's what you guys want. I mean, I'm just saying, I kind of thought that was, you see a bike rack and they're kind of some of them, but the fish one, it's shaped like a fish. You can drive straight into it. It kind of gives it's a little kind of, it's kind of a little nicer looking for the downtown. We're right on the water. It could be a lobster. I don't know. Whatever you guys want.
Can you send us a picture, or can you?
Yeah, I actually was looking at one earlier on. I can look up one real quick.
Well, Dave, when you send approximate location, approximate numbers, if you could include that, that would be great. You don't have to do it right now because we'll talk about it.
I'm looking at one right now. It's called bicycleparking.com, fish bike rack. Bicycle Park INGLLC. So it's bicycleparking.com.
Any other questions for Dave about this? Allison, were you raising your hand?
Oh, I actually was for a second. I've had a lot of people just like stop me on the street or write me little emails saying, I was just in such and such a place. And they had these little things that had bike tools or kiosks or just various things, similar to the bike pump idea, just to make it easier. And so I just wanted to throw in that it's not just I tell these people like, oh yeah, that's something that we talk about and we have this pathways committee. Most of them aren't interested in joining a committee, but I do feel like there's a lot of that desire in Camden, and that we shouldn't be like, ooh, I don't know if it might be too expensive or this or that. I mean, we have a huge infrastructure deficit in this area. And it's reasonable to budget for it and I don't think you should be worrying too much about the cost. We should just budget for it, and we should just do some of these basic things that make it easier for people to get around, because we spend millions of dollars making it easier for cars every single year.
Yeah.
I think Allison's right. I think like maybe not just a fish, but I like the idea of maybe having a few different kinds around town. You guys, this is an opportunity to kind of pick something out you really like and have some fun with it. So just have some fun with it. Pick what you think is going to be really usable for you folks for bicycles, and tell me what it is. I just think that's the easiest way to go about doing it.
It's a nice sailboat shaped rack.
There you go.
What is your anticipation, Dave, of the actual demand for bicycle racks in town? Do you think there are a fair number of bicyclists, or do you think this will maybe encourage it?
Well, I'm hoping it's a little of both, right? I'm hoping that by providing the opportunity to easily park your bicycle in front of places in the downtown, more people will want to use their bike. That's kind of what we're trying to do, right? If I had a hard time parking my bike anywhere and I had an expensive bike, I probably wouldn't want to take it downtown. That's, you know what I mean?
Well,
if you build it, they'll come.
Right.
Just seeing some recently in Scotland, they have a whole, shelter basically where there's a plexiglass, roof and siding. So I don't know, that might get a little complicated, but there's quite a range for sure.
Right.
So
that's why I was
Dave,
asking about the budget. Linda?
I'm just looking at a timeline. Do you think it would be by next spring that you would get three in perhaps? If it's in the budget and the budget's approved, well, I guess that's town meeting, isn't it?
We have some money right now.
I have money in my budget right now for this. So you guys, if you find a bike rack, I'll try and get them in the springtime for you.
Okay, so that's great, because I think that if we know that now, then come April, we're going to put out a press release. Hey, guess what? Here they are, and we'll map it out.
Yep. I think the bigger issue is going to be picking them and then getting them manufactured and then sent in time. So the quicker you get them ordered and in the pipeline, the better off you're gonna be.
But
Yeah.
the bottom line is you want them removable.
I think that being easily moved out of the way if I have to clean up in the wintertime will be helpful.
Who else? Who else before Dave sunsets? Questions? Did you have another topic, Dave?
I had a question. I mean, I imagine these things aren't very light, so moving them to plow, would that be an issue, Dave?
I mean, I think like if you look at the one in the Mechanic Street parking lot, I don't know if anybody's familiar with that one. I mean, we can move that thing with 2 people out of the way pretty quick. I think
Yeah.
what we would do is probably rest them up on the sidewalk, clean the sidewalk probably off and make a spot for it, put it in the sidewalk and then do the road. I'm probably not gonna be real popular with the guys about this whole thing because this is something that creates more work for us. But you know, we got to do, you know, it's just an incremental thing. You have to incrementally make these changes and then it's just common. But when you haven't done it for a while, it's hard.
Just play it by ear. If they don't get used in the winter time, then.
Right, exactly. Or maybe put a few of them that are in more popular places. We can figure it out. I mean, this isn't like insurmountable.
Anita?
So you mentioned the fish one, and I looked at that. I'm looking at that now. It seems to me the bike racks that are easily movable are the ones that actually have some base that's got some width to it, so that it stands on its own, whereas these others would be bolted into place. So
No, right. We want them to be like you're saying, the ones that can be moved.
So if we got an artistic one, is there the talent in your department to weld an additional component to make it have a base so that it can be moved? So that, do we have the freedom to select one that is not shown with a base?
I think it would be
Anita,
better.
that's welding. Welding is what you could do.
Yeah.
You could do that. Yeah. Except welding galvanized is a bad idea.
I think it'd be better if you bought one that's all set up as a, you know, made to move around. I think that's I think.
But Dave, you're
that'd be the
teasing us
easiest
with
thing, 'cause they're gonna be
artistic
painted
one.
and everything, but
Allison?
I mean, a lot of bike racks just stay in place. And I mean, so Colton, for instance, is in 6th grade and he rides his bike to school every single day. And the middle school just leaves the bike rack there. And it stops, they actually don't need to plow that area because there's a bike rack there. And it's not part of the, I mean, I don't know if we need to figure out how other places keep bike racks out year round, but if it really gets used, it might not need to be plowed underneath there to facilitate parking all the time, or it becomes part of the bump out. I would think these movable ones, the most nerve-wracking part is that they can get hits, and I think we want the bike racks to be protective of the bikes also, so that they don't get hit by cars. So I don't know. It seems like maybe it would be good if you would ask them just to give you sort of a couple different options of things that they like, rather than asking the committee to evaluate how movable something is or isn't.
It sounds to me like what we need is to be a little more knowledgeable about what the options are. They even may make racks that have things welded on, and we don't know that. We don't know how easy this is. What I'd like to suggest is that a couple people volunteer to come up with, say, 10 options and become knowledgeable about, you know, what options and why they presented those 10 options, and
That'd be
things
great.
like that. And that's what we're going to do. And then we talk about that at the next meeting and come up with 3 suggestions and some kind of mix. We don't know how many. Dave's going to send that to us. We'll
Mhm.
sharpen it up. We may come up with some more questions during the homework session. I think we've carried it as far as we can go right now before going deeper. So what I'm looking for are Nita, our volunteers.
He's a volunteer.
Claire's hand is up. Anybody else? Andrew, can you think and chew and stand? No, and okay. Andrew and Will, anybody else? Anita, you know, you volunteer a lot. I want to try to get some other people.
I want to
I'll
do
ask
it.
Jane Self, because she might be interested in this as well.
Okay. Let's see.
I'm interested, but my bandwidth between now and.
No, forget it, Margot.
I'm interested in the artistic side, doing something aesthetic. That floats my boat.
You will have a vote. You will be able to add your voice after they come and report back. Will, and oh, you fixed it. Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, Will. You didn't have to do that.
I did
I
it.
don't know how that happened. Anyway,
I
here I am.
Will and Andrew, do you guys have contact for Jane? Can you reach out to her and ask her whether she wants to join you guys? Yes, Andrew does. Okay. So what you're going to do is go out and look for some options, and you're going to come back to the next meeting with the rationale for those options. And between now and then, Dave St. Laurent's going to send me, and I'll send to you the numbers and approximate locations. And we'll work from there.
I'm just going to ask Anita. She'll know.
Thanks for helping
That's
with this,
right.
everybody. This is going to be really super helpful.
That's a good strategy. And a good strategy. Anita, do you want to say something?
I'm trying to understand what he's asking me.
To do his homework, he's just going to ask you,
Oh, I see.
and then you'll tell him. That's the way, his go-to. All right. Thanks, Dave. Did you have another item specifically that you wanted
No,
to?
I mean, I seen a few things on the agenda that if Allison can't answer, I might be able to help with, but.
I did have, I didn't know if you had anything else.
I
Right
don't have
now-
anything else, no.
Okay, moving on to the subcommittee reports. The first one is we're working under the understanding that likely in 2022, the contractors will begin work on the Maritime Farm sidewalk and the Shertail extension. Is that your understanding, Dave?
Yeah, and I think that the plan was for them to start on the Route 1 first before it got busy and then move over to Washington Street.
Okay.
So and we're gonna be continuing our sidewalk also from where we left off at Knowlton Street and taking it down to the bridge. So that ought to make it a contiguous, long, nice sidewalk. And then we're also thinking of doing the sidewalk from Elm Street to Eric's Barber Shop in front of Town Hall, because they're gonna be paving that part of Washington Street. So I want to kind of widen that out, make it ADA accessible, and then,
Wait, Eric's and Elm Street?
yeah, that sidewalk in front of,
Street? Eric's Barber? Elm? That doesn't hit Elm, does it?
Yeah, and
Am
talking in front of Washington Street right, in front of Long Grain?
yeah, that's the sidewalk in front of Town Hall,
Oh, got it.
right in front of Town
On
Hall.
Washington
Um,
Street, along Washington Street there?
Yeah, and it goes by Eric's. Got it.
So icy in the wintertime.
Yeah, it's not super great. We want to widen it out. I want to take the irregularity out of it and straighten the curb out. So since they're paving, it's a good time to do that because then after they pave, it's difficult to do. And then the other one I'm looking at right now is Central Street from Cross Street up. That one's in really poor shape. I'm thinking about doing a advisory lane on that. Kind of like Norwood.
When you say from Cross Street on up, do you mean towards Route 1 or away from Route 1 up the hill?
Up the hill. Up the hill. And then I'd like to follow it up with fixing the lower part or the downhill part the next year.
You're talking about Central Street?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really bad shape. the whole
Really
thing.
bad shape. I mean, it really needs it. I'm thinking and it's really hard to maintain in the winter because it's just all busted up. So every time we go over it, it just breaks up more. It has some really big trees along the edge
big
of the
roots.
sidewalk too. So I think, so I think that, the advisory lane will help with trying to protect those trees without getting into them too much, with redoing the sidewalk in that location.
So is this then another example of a street that has sidewalks turning over to become a shared street? Is that what we're doing here?
It's not, it's kind of a shared street. I mean, yeah, it can be used as a bike lane per se, or a walking lane. It's just like Norwood Avenue.
Right, but,
Norwood Avenue didn't have anything before.
okay,
So this one actually has a sidewalk, but it's in really poor shape.
take the sidewalk out is what you're,
Well, I'm not taking it out. I'm replacing it with an advisory lane.
I understand, but
Yeah.
it becomes, because, and the reason I'm talking about this is because we had the conversation in relation to Rockport on a couple of,
Mhm.
and how you introduce the public to the idea of a shared street. And right, Allison's reaction, you're taking a sidewalk out, suddenly makes us stop and say, wait a minute, so what's the trap? So I wish the two towns that we could come up with some sort of description, official description of what a shared street is and why a sidewalk might be taken out. I was walking along Mechanic Street in Rockport today in the side, and we've talked about making that a shared street. John has mentioned that. But the sidewalk is pretty established there. So I'm like, maybe that's not such a great idea.
I think, Linda, we had wandered a little bit back from the shared street concept because the shared street internationally talks about adding a lot of bump outs and
Right.
slowing down traffic and parking.
So
What we were talking about was if we move from removing a sidewalk, that it turns into an advisory lane situation.
Right, this is different.
Which is more consistent with what I think Dave is talking about.
Right.
Yeah, but see, that's
Um,
where I think we, then philosophically, we run into issues. I cede the floor to Allison.
I'm really sorry to do this. Did you say that you're replacing a sidewalk with an advisory lane on?
We're
Which
thinking
street?
about the Central Street, the uphill part has a real poor sidewalk. It's narrow, there's tree roots into it. So it's a wide road that doesn't have a lot of real, heavy traffic on it. So narrowing up the lanes and putting an advisory lane in there, that's it has clear line of sight. It's a good candidate for an advisory lane.
I see, I mean, I understand that you think it is, but I'm sorry, that was not exactly the way I wanted to say it. But people also, I guess not to get into the minutia of it, I think that probably that kind of thing needs some sort of formal process.
Oh, yeah, and I was gonna present it.
that-
I'm just throwing it out there that we're looking at that right now.
Who's we?
Me.
Okay. Because
Yeah.
That's a
people
very
park
low,
Also, and so it's a high level of parking that happens on that street. And so with advisory lanes, those tend to become parking spots. So I don't know.
So
I
this
see what you're saying. Yeah.
the same thing is happening in Rockport, right? The same line of thinking is burbling up. So I just wish that the two towns, we could talk about it and say, okay, so that, I mean, we are essentially the two town committee, so that we could come up with, if we could come up, the Pathways Committee could come up with something that where we agree, where it may be sensible to do something. And then the best way to tackle, okay, yeah, but Allison's got a point. So the street,
Well-
then where does a pedestrian go?
Take a look at Central Street going up the hill and look at the trees and look at the width of the road and tell me what you guys think about an advisory lane there versus a raised sidewalk. I understand, my concern also was the parking. But it doesn't seem to be a problem on Norwood because you have an advisory, because you have a lane on each side. So, but you know, it's totally an option. I mean, it's easier to maintain in the winter. It doesn't have the up and down at every curb cut, so it makes it easier to walk on. Provides people and bikes both a place to go.
Allison, hang on just a minute.
If I could.
I think
can I chime
hang
in
on,
that?
hang on, Andrew, and just a second, Andrew. Dave is trying to go through a punch list of things he's considering. These are not done deals, and he's trying to introduce them to us, which I really appreciate because clearly we have an interest in them, as everybody is saying. I'm making notes about those. I think we can banter it around and come to consensus and then come back to Dave and say, this is what we're thinking, not dissimilar from what you were talking about, Linda, and proposing something. I'm
Kind of why I'm
feeling
bringing
that.
it up.
I'm also feeling what you're talking about, Linda. It's happening in Rockport, it's happening in Camden. And at the last time we discussed this, we were saying, let's come up with something. So let's do that. Andrew, do you have something to add after that, or can I let Dave continue?
Just real quick, Central Street sidewalk is almost not usable. It's a disaster. And there's hardly any traffic on that street anyway, so.
We'll talk about that.
Terrible.
Yeah. Okay, did you have some more? Allison, you were raising your hand. Can you let it go? Thank you. Dave, we interrupted you. You were.
Oh, no,
Central.
I think that's all. I mean, I pretty much shared with you my, some of the things that we're thinking about doing in the next coming year, because I'm getting ready to budget those things. The Central Street was one that I just don't feel like I can neglect another year. We have to do something. So either an elevated sidewalk or, you know, an advisory lane. Either one will be fine. It doesn't really make much difference to me. I just think that the advisory lane and that application right there seems to make a lot of sense. If you're going up the hill on the left-hand side, there's a curb for the water, for the stormwater. So we wouldn't be touching that. We would be overlaying that road and then taking the old sidewalk out and we'd widen it a little bit. And then after it was surfaced, we'd put the two lanes on each side.
You'll be doing anything with the utility poles, Dave?
No, there wouldn't be anything. I mean, this would be a really quick or
Okay.
easy transformation. And I think it would work well. And we can also put a sidewalk there. I mean, it's not really a deal breaker either way. I just think it's a good spot for a advisory lane or potential candidate for an advisory lane.
If it's okay with you, Dave, we'd love to add our voice.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
We'll duck out that conversation so you don't have to listen to it until we're clear on what our voice is.
Take a
Andrew,
look at the trees though, because you really can't get into those big trees right there.
I'd like to stop talking about Central Street.
Can I just
anybody-
second?
I don't wanna-
would
I don't-
love, what I'm going to say is I actually think this is a really critical kind of summit issue because I can see so many sidewalks that could be torn up and become advisory lanes that are multi-use in many parts of Camden and Rockport that would save the town's money around how they get managed and they become multi-use and it can serve multiple functions. So I think this is actually a bigger topic than Central Street or whatever. And I would like to see us actually tackle this because I think Camden and Rockport getting on the same page around this will serve us hugely.
Thank you, Andrew.
I just wanted to say to Dave before, if he's going to leave, if he could give us a little pointers on what he thinks about one of the next items on the agenda, which is bicycle awareness, since he's really been working hard on that.
Yeah,
Geez, that's your expertise, guys. I'm gonna not touch that one.
Okay.
Sorry. I think you got some pointers at the two presentations given by Patrick Adams there. I think that there was some information that was provided there for bicycle awareness and some data and materials to do that. There was some videos, there was different things that they were offering from Bicycle Coalition of Maine.
No, I just thought since you've done the advisory lanes on, is it Rawson Avenue? Not Rawson, but no.
Norwood.
Yeah,
Norwood. Yep.
That's an awareness thing that you did. But, okay, we'll work on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your input's greatly appreciated.
Thank you for offering that, Dave, to us.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's about it from us for right now. So you're welcome to stay, Dave, or not.
I can cut out if you guys, I don't want to.
No, you don't do. You can do whatever you want to do. Either
Okay.
way, Dave.
All right. I'll see you guys later. Happy New Year. And I didn't mean to give you too many things to kind of think about, but it's always helpful when you do.
Yeah, you blew my idea that it was going to be a short meeting. Thank you very much, Dave.
Oh, you guys like this stuff. Come on. This is why you're here. This is why you're
Dave,
here.
we love your input, so if you don't leave, that'd be good too.
All right. We appreciate it.
All right. Let's see. The next item I have is the Riverwalk. There are different aspects of this. I didn't do any homework on the wastewater treatment plant side of things, so I don't have an update there. I kind of have mixed feelings, but Margot, what you sent me, I was trying to decipher, but maybe we can talk about that later. That'd be more appropriate. In
Bottom
terms
line
of
is
the
if you
middle
want to
school.
come up with the money to do the site plan or find grant money to do it, there is great support, but the school district does not have the money to do a, to support the site plan because they got a $30,000 number for that.
From Oak Point, probably.
Yep.
Yeah. Does everybody understand that statement? Anybody have any questions about that statement? Because we've talked about this before. This is the site review that there's just the mechanics of the site review itself. And then once the site review is done, which is basically a stormwater management plan, then there could be potential consequences that if the stormwater management is found lacking, then there's additional funds to remedy that as well. So there typically is hesitation to go down this route. The only motivation to do it, other than basically stormwater management, would be to allow a greater impervious surface. I can never get it straight. Percentage of the property be covered by a greater percentage. That's what the gold ring is they are reaching for by doing the site plan. So I had a couple ideas related to this. I ran into Ryan Gates, and they're doing, I think it's stormwater review. Dave, do you know anything about that? Anita's shaking her head.
Who's Ryan Gates?
Sorry. I ran into Ryan Gates from Coastal Mountains Land Trust. He's working with the Around the Mountain Trail construction. And Dave, you're on mute.
So Jeff, actually, you mean at the Snow Bowl?
At the Snow Bowl,
Yeah.
they're doing a stormwater.
Jeff's looking at, potentially doing some type of porous pavement over there.
Jeff?
Jeff, the engineer.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. As a way around that,
Mhm.
as a way around the issue. But I thought they were doing a
It's not-
review too.
It's not really anything I'm involved in. I just overheard
Okay.
the conversation about that. Yep.
But I'm pretty sure Ryan said that they were already doing the stormwater runoff
I mean,
plan. Yes, Allison?
so it's kind of like this gets into like this whole speculating thing. If you want the real thing, I mean, it was approved at a select board meeting. We discussed it we are doing the site plan review process. It costs a bunch of money.
At the Snow Bowl.
Yeah, for a variety of reasons, not just around the mountain trail. But
It's for
I
building
wouldn't think-
anything.
I mean, Ryan Gates wouldn't be the point person for information on this topic. Dave's absolutely right that Jeff Senders is the person that was hired to do that. So, I mean, I think we should be, if you want an update on sort of how to use the snowball experience to solve problems for the Riverwalk at the middle school. I don't know that we really have a successful model over there at this point.
Hmm.
I mean, it's that $30,000 thing. It's if we want to hire, I think it's sort of what the school told you. If we want to hire somebody to do the site plan review and go through that whole process, then we can do that. But we would have to do it. I mean, we're paying for it at the Snowball. We'd have to pay for it over at the middle school, it sounds like.
Can I just ask a question? Is then Maria amenable to the idea of us doing something back there? All right.
If,
Well, then-
if
No
we
question,
pay,
there's,
there's no question. We just have to come up with the money.
okay,
And we have to deal with the entire impervious surface issue. We can't build anything on that property until that issue is resolved. I
great.
guess what I was driving at, I was trying to get to, is there's a, and it may not work, I don't know. The legislature is working, when I was talking to Ryan Gates about this project at Coastal Mountains, there's also legislation that was introduced in December about making trails built for bicycles, particularly mountain bikes, be an exception to the impervious surface rule. And I am trying, I don't have it. I will send you the wording. And I'm not entirely sure whether the Riverwalk would meet the requirements of what the legislature is considering. They are talking about paths that are 6 feet, up to 6 feet wide, but no wider than 8 foot cleared, which is exactly what the Riverwalk is. It's this proposed legislation. It's going into committee and it's going to be reviewed by the Environmental Natural Resources Committee. That's a joint committee on January 10th. So who knows, it may die in committee. I don't know, but if that happens, if it does get approved, it may be a way for us to construct this without a site review. No? You're shaking your head?
So if
Allison, you should be jumping up and down.
I'm trying to walk away so that I don't, let's let Linda talk. I mean,
no, I find it heartening that we've got a green light from the district, which we've been hoping for a while. And
We've always had that. They've always supported the Riverwalk. The board of directors, the school board has supported the Riverwalk, but they constructed the school without consideration for it.
Exactly. We were all there in that room. We all remember. So my point is, if the green light is there and the Riverwalk is a municipal project, then the municipality has grant writers, doesn't it? And therefore, can we not see a way forward at this point to at least do something on that property?
I don't think so personally, but Will has his hand up.
I don't understand. I don't understand why the answer is an automatic no.
The reason is that the municipality would have to pay for all the stormwater improvements for the school district. It would be weird for the town to step in. Allison, it would be weird for the town to step in, pay pay for a site plan for the school district as part of the municipal budget to step in and do the site plan for the school, and then take on any potential consequences of that site plan for improving the stormwater management at the school. I just don't see it as, I see it as a non-starter. That's just my view. Will, did you want to add something, please?
Well, it may relate to this, but as it relates to what I saw in the minutes from last month, there was reference to Build Back Better funds. Is that something that somebody is researching? Do we know where we stand with regard to that?
I asked Maria, she said, not now, not right now, that the budget is maxed out for the foreseeable future. That's what she said. Allison?
One of the things that was on the select board agenda for this past week, the meeting got postponed until next week. But one of the things is a discussion surrounding the decision-making process going forward for the river restoration feasibility. And that might be, I think one of the things that will be on the table is, what kind of expertise does the town need? What kind of maybe citizens committees or expertise, or what do we need in order to, as a community, get to good decisions surrounding every aspect of that process. And I think it might be a good opportunity for whoever felt strongly about this to say, hey, don't forget the Riverwalk in all of this. And that, along with that, I tend to agree with Linda's sentiment that right now we have like the political will. We don't have people arguing about whether or not the Riverwalk is a worthy project. There's a lot of support for it. We have some like identified barriers, but we also don't really have people arguing that like stormwater management is something we don't need to care about. So the reason that those rules are in place are really, really good ones. And it might be a lot better to say, this money isn't that much money in the long run. When there are things that the community really cares about, it costs $200,000 to repave Mechanic Street or something. That's probably a wrong number, but it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's somewhere around. And we should stop trying all the time to say, well, we've identified this $30,000 barrier, and that's surmountable. When the school district and the town get together and say, do we want to share the cost of hiring somebody, or just make sure that it gets into as a high priority for, any other decisions with the river. I mean, that's a surmountable amount of money to make a huge path along the school. And there are already existing stormwater issues. They are going to maybe have to fix a couple of their stormwater outlets already. So it might be just easier just to advocate for getting that money in the budget. Just my 2 cents. We might not have the political will forever. I think there has been in the past nervousness about people too close to schools and little things like that. You don't always know what's going to crop up in the future. And so I think it's a really big accomplishment that everybody's supportive right now. And maybe we don't need to change laws in order to move forward. We just could comply with the laws. That's it.
I'm trying to think of an action item, and I approached Maria at the last meeting. Margot, I asked Margot to approach her as well as a longtime colleague. Margot did that, thanks. I've been working through Keith Rose, trying to get him to support the project too. He understands facilities and what the hurdles are. Maria says that it's not going to happen in this year's budget, which would be approved in June, I think, for the following year. And so we would be looking at the year after that. Maria's going on sabbatical in the next 6 months, I believe. Well-deserved. and she'll be gone until 2022, probably, something like that. No, 2023. Are we in 2022? 2023, sorry. And so I'm thinking in my mind, okay, there's Allison saying there's political will, we should advocate. I want to be clear that it's not the $30,000, it's the potential, what's behind the 30K in terms of if the site review says you have to fix these things, I don't know what exposure that means to the school. If it costs $200,000 to fix the items identified in this site review, then it's not $30,000. And this is not construction. This is just administrative work behind before we start the construction, just to get approval. So I'm trying to figure out what the next steps are. And I know Linda has the answer. So Linda, you wanted to say something.
No, I'm not bouncing around. It just seems like a natural conversation to have with the Camden Planning Office, to flesh it out in the details. And I realize that the planner, that the planning office is maxed out perhaps, but knowing that things take years anyhow. Yeah, Maria's going on sabbatical, but we have conversations prior, and some ball gets rolling and it goes in with the river study as well. So it just seems, I think the time is right to push it forward, ask a municipality, ask Camden to at least explore it a little bit, or I can't say delegate, because they would delegate back to us and we're throwing our hands up. So I think it's time for a central planning office in Camden. I mean, if the town is serious about the Riverwalk.
The other part though, and just hearing the, 3 things that were already mentioned, if Build Back Better or some iteration happens, storm drain runoff is going to be smart in terms of climate resiliency, regardless of Riverwalk. And it seems like there will be some pieces that are all in a row that could, if all these pieces are lined up, then we are shovel ready versus, waiting. So
That's a really good point, Margot. Thank
Okay.
you. Really good. I like that. All right, I'd forgotten, but I actually have a meeting with Jeremy. And I will chat with, I actually was going to talk to him about this and talk to him about process and things like that. So we'll see where it goes. And I'll mention these ideas to him the next couple of days and let you know. All right. Any update on Route 90?
No, the only, and maybe you guys talked about it at the last meeting. I can't remember where this fell in, but the meeting with Patrick was put off because not everybody responded to the email. So Diane's going to work at it again, but then the holidays intervene. So.
Yeah, Heidi was going to advocate for that. I think she was going to, that was the correction that Helen was talking about, that John Duke was to bring the meeting back up to say, hey, what are we doing about this? This is the master plan approach to advocating for Route 90.
Right.
Patrick Adams.
The meeting did get partially scheduled, but not enough people responded to the doodle.
Yeah. So Linda, can you also check in with Heidi and see where that is? She was going to advocate for that. I know maybe she already did.
Just for the record, I emailed Diane about that doodle and after the doodle that I couldn't respond to the doodle because there was not a single time put on that doodle that I could participate in because every time was during school time. And I both emailed Diane before and after. And so.
Okay. All right. So we're on it, Margot. And Helen, we're going for it.
All right. Thank you. Keep working at it. It takes time. Bike awareness. what next? I think the what next thing is creating more awareness by putting up some bike racks. And Andrew and Will are gonna come back with some ideas along with Jane, we hope. If you can't get Jane, Anita will be standing in the wings ready to help along with this. And here's my plug for Sidewalk Surveys. Linda, you owe me a few more. Richard, you owe me all of yours.
No, I
Moving on to
sent them to you. You're done. I'm done.
when?
2 days ago, 3 days ago.
2 days? Oh, gosh. It's possible that you did. I'll check again. We've had guests and I haven't checked all my emails, but
You should be,
thanks. Complete for Rockport.
Rockport, yeah.
Okay. Richard, I know you have it on your list. Thanks. I had two more things that I forgot to put on the agenda. One of them is I'm going to probably be out of country starting in June-ish, as well as Anita. So somebody's going to have to step up for a number of months, maybe a year, as the chairperson.
Wait a minute, you got to say where you're going. You can't just lay that one. Where are you going?
Out of country.
Oh, are you fugitives?
I can't say.
Which country?
This is being recorded. No, we're thinking of, we have to take care of Anita's mother's house and stuff in Australia. So we're gonna go to Australia and we figure as long as we're there, we're gonna get an old car and drive around for a while.
Okay, we're all coming down.
Maybe put some bikes on the back too. Not for you, Will, for me. I saw those wheels starting. It's like, yeah, let's see. Yeah, right.
Which part of Australia, Anita?
Sydney. Sydney is where our place is. Yeah.
So I'll try to remind you guys, think about the energy you'd like to put in, and you'll need also somebody as a secretary as well. And I'll revisit that at the next meeting. The next one that I forgot to put on, and I don't know exactly, I'm not doing this right, I know it, but I don't know the right way to do it. For the first time, I actually received something from the planning office about a proposal to build something, and they asked the Pathways Committee to review it. It's a project to review it in terms of sidewalks and effects on pedestrians and bikeways and things like that. It's the old MBNA maintenance building across from Coastal Mountains Land Trust. And I'm still not sure on the process here. I wrote to Jeannie in the planning office about this, and I didn't hear back from her. And I know the planning board already reviewed the proposal. Is that right, Anita? This is for Mullins project?
We've had one discussion, yeah.
Does that mean it's not approved yet and you'll have another?
I think we've got another coming up.
Allison?
So it looks like they're, I don't know if you've ever seen one of these forms before, but there's like a box that says like, pathways. I saw one not so long ago and I was like, what? Oh my gosh, there's this, this was on this form. How do we get this box checked more often? And that would be a great one for Anita to figure out how we can get the box checked more often, or like ask why it was or wasn't checked. Sometimes this form appears as part of the planning board packet that's available publicly. Sometimes it doesn't. But it looks like somebody must have said pathways committee review recommended or something. And but yeah, they've only had their initial conversation about it. So it's not approved yet. It did get approved a couple of years ago, but then it lapsed. It's turning the that little field across from Coastal Mountains Land Trust. It's turning that into a parking lot. It's
let
going to
me
be
show
a
it
little
to
bit
you.
tough to connect this to the, sometimes the answer, you guys probably just need to look at it and say, well, we don't have a lot to add. Otherwise, they might be afraid to ever send you something again, but.
Exactly. That's why I want to respond, Allison. That's exactly right. So let me show you. Oops. Did you guys get that? Can you see this little form now? Okay, so those are the two questions down there. Do you anticipate significant problems with the proposal? Would you like to discuss the proposal with the board, meaning the planning board, and then comments and or recommendations? And so here's Gartley and Dorsey's submission. And I'm going to skip a lot of it. It's huge. This is what the planning board reviews. Cranesport Garage, DIY. Those are the people that are in there. There's a lot of stuff, Here's a picture of it to let you know where it is. What I'm looking for from you all right now is to think about whether there's any impact on pedestrian bikes. Do you recognize that area, sort of? You know what we're talking about? And this is an aerial of it. You can see on Anita's. Anita, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to suggest you show
What
the
I'm showing?
plan. Yeah, which is to, as you mentioned, on the corner where Mount Batty Street, what is the name of that? Madison Way. Oh, where Mount Batty Street turns the corner, that area that's, as you mentioned, is grass, would be
Hang on,
paved.
I'll get there. I'm just kind of trying to find the best image. So those are actual pictures of the facility, and where it's located is, as Anita pointed out, I don't think this is a good way. This is about the best I've got. Mount Batty Street, Coastal Mountains Land Trust is here. That's Seabright Dam up here. I don't know if you can see my cursor, maybe. Mount Batty Street comes up here, and this on the left-hand side is Washington Street. So if you turn down towards Coastal Mountain, that'd be Mount Batty Street. It wraps around, and this is this big white roofed building is the old MB&A maintenance building.
Is that
And-
the food pantry right there?
That's the food pantry. It says number 8, I think, right there. And you can see maybe you can't, but over here on the budding landowners, number 8 says Camden Area Christian Food Pantry.
So what's the parking lot going in?
So where they're gonna do it is, if you've ever been past there walking or whatever, I go past there a lot, is this green, if this was oriented to north, which is what it is, I guess, pretty much. The upper part of my screen, in this corner, this sort of bump out on top of the white buildings, that's a green grass field, as Allison was saying. And they use it for parking all the time now. They've been parking vehicles in there and doing storage and stuff like that. And he's going to formalize that and pave it. Here's the plan. It's right, and I can zoom in on this.
So that seems like a perfect road for what Dave did on Norwood Ave, right? I mean, why not just paint the exact same?
Advisory lane.
Yeah.
I guess that would be potential. What we're supposed to be looking at is whether adding this area here, which is in gray in the lower right, sort of now. See that little bump out? Would affect any future plans for pedestrian and bikeways. Like, for instance, if we were planning to put a sidewalk down and around Mount Batty Street, we would say we would like that to be a part of the engineering plan or add it, and we'd have to justify that. You can't just say, we want you to build it. You'd have to say, yeah, this is in our long range plan and blah, blah, blah. We don't have anything like that. We've never talked about doing that on Mount Batty Street. Mount Batty Street has very little traffic. This will not add more traffic. They've been doing all this, what they've been doing all the time. So what you have to think of is that on the lower part down here, oops, never mind. On the river side of this, this would create a huge impervious surface. So all the water will be running down. And so that was one thought that I had, is where is that water going? Is it going to wash out the Riverwalk or something like that? So think along that. If we want to put, Linda, to your point about putting in advisory lanes, that's a question for the town that we can do anytime, that this project is not going to impact at all. So the idea is, when they're doing this engineering, when they're doing the planning, are there certain aspects of it that they're not considering related to pedestrians and bikes? Anita?
I was concerned about the issue of drainage as well and washouts, and did confirm that there are, you can see in the blue and the red is, I think somewhere in the key, they say existing and future drainage. I think red is future. But they also have, if you see the black and white. Yeah. So, yeah, I need to see that whole thing. They do have the stormwater drains marked. It's a little hard to see on this version, and you keep moving away from the part that they're adding.
Anyway.
So if you see the corner of the brown existing building and the dotted line that marks where the new big rectangular parking area begins, there are actually two storm, yes, that's right. There are actually two storm drains there. One is added and there to the one that exists. And then the drainage, once it leaves that parking area, because it does show the slope. The sort of what looks like chevrons on that parking area are actually the slope. So you can see there's kind of a swale down the middle of that new parking area. It looks like chevrons, but those are elevation lines. Then there's another drainage area, drain down.
Hang on, Anita, before you go too far and into the planning board discussion, all we're looking at is what our concerns are. Right. And we would just put those in. And so we would say, we just want to make sure the drainage is good. You don't have to defend it.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Anyway, they've done a pretty good job. I looked at it pretty carefully and asked a bunch of questions.
Allison.
So I thought what you guys might bring up is reminder about the Riverwalk in general, that it dead ends there in a way. It's one access point to I actually can't remember. And again, this isn't something that you might like force the property owner to do or anything, you don't have that ability, but sometimes they're just interested in general. It normally, if people want to walk along that section of the Riverwalk, they either park at the town pump station, or, which is very limited, or they park at Coastal Mountains Land Trust. I don't know what the plan is, if eventually you're hoping that the Coastal Mountains Land Trust section, or the Seabright Dam section, people will have a clear walking path back up to Washington Street to then get to Shirt Tail. What's the plan to connect? Like, that might be a good thing to just remind the planning board, well, the Riverwalk master plan says this. And maybe this parking lot eventually will be like, when it's not full, people can use it to park for the Riverwalk. But the advisory, getting people safely from the end of, between Shirt Tail and that section of the Riverwalk, what is the plan for that in the Riverwalk master plan?
To continue up to Shirt Tail on the river.
Oh. Well, that might not happen right away. Is there in the interim, you might want to, there may all of a sudden be a lot more people once we get that sidewalk on Shirt Tail. There might be a lot of people coming down Mount Batty Street to get to the Coastal Mountain Land Trust Seabright Park area. In which case the advisory lanes, there might be a little bit more traffic at Mount Batty Street because of this new parking lot. And then it might be I think Linda's suggestion of like, hey, advisory lane location is like a really relevant thing right now, because we're talking about increasing car traffic, possibly. There's only one reason to expand a parking lot. It's because you need space for more cars.
Yeah, and I'll say this, I haven't changed my mind. If we are interested in having advisory lanes on Mount Batty Street, that's a discussion that we talked with Dave St. Laurent on, and it doesn't relate to this project. If, on the other hand, if we want to, if we feel parking is an issue on the Riverwalk, and we want to approach this Mullins, the developer, to say, can we also use your parking lot? I don't think that changes the engineering. It would be more of an informational, and we want to speak and say, hey, like, as you said, Allison, is our master plan has us eventually having a Riverwalk that goes all the way to town. It may generate more traffic, more parking challenges, etc. We're letting you know that, and we'll
Right,
cross
you
that
might
bridge
just
when we
want to
get
make
to
sure
it.
the
I don't know.
curb cuts are small enough. It doesn't look like there's only going to be one entrance to the parking lot. Is that,
Same one that was there.
well, there's no entrance to it really right now. They just drive on the grass. So you don't think a sidewalk is ever going to be needed on Mount Batty Street? It doesn't look like it would be a problem, but.
I don't see how this can impact the sidewalks or anything, because it's all on their private property, far enough off the main road, off the street rather.
Curb cuts do but it's a small one.
Anita?
Jeff, I think both Allison and Andrew have good points. First of all, we can't really ask a private property owner to create a sidewalk. I think that the Pathways Committee should discuss, perhaps another time, a temporary connection from Seabright Dam to the Washington Street sidewalk extension that will be going in this summer. And in my opinion, it makes sense to do it on the side of this building, this storage facility. But you can see that there's a fair amount of setback distance between the slope that goes down to their new parking lot and the road. So I think we should advocate for, or start thinking about, a sidewalk going up. That's a crosswalk down where the street turns the corner, and then a sidewalk going up that side, because that's where the food pantry is, and that's where the affordable housing development is. So it serves sort of a greater area of maybe greater amount of traffic, and then crosswalk over to the new sidewalk on Washington Street. We do have future hopes and plans for it to be along the river, but to create something that is logical to do at this point and be thinking in those terms as a solution for now makes sense to me.
Sorry, Will.
Yeah, I'm looking at the drawing, and just one other point maybe to think about is the blue line, the bold blue line seems fence. So I'm wondering about sight lines, if the fence is 6 feet tall or is it 10 feet tall coming around that corner. Maybe just thinking about sighting, visibility.
That's a really good point.
It represents a
how
fence,
high
I
that-
think it represents the property line, and there is planting you can see the planting that they're planting there.
Okay, I see. It says something about a fence. Maybe just, I'm confusing that maybe with the blue line, but yeah.
It does say there's a fence. It does say cedar fence. It's like a 6-foot tall wooden fence.
Can you tell me where that is?
That's a really good
Awesome.
point, Will. That had totally escaped me.
Somebody tell me where that is
Uh,
so I can zoom in. New
You're,
6 foot tall F basin. No, that's not it.
so if you go up to yeah, you're almost touching it now, down to your, I don't know. Yeah,
6 foot tall wooden fence. See wooden fence detail outdoor storage area.
so is that just around a storage area?
It could be right here.
Though that's a storage area that's down at the corner. If you look right by the corner in the new parking lot area, right at the corner of the building, you'll see 2 little doors opening. And then if you look more carefully, you'll see the red outline of the storage
Here.
area. On the left,
Is it,
go left,
is it this?
go left, go left, go left. Up by the corner of the brown building. Go right, go right, go right, go right, go right. There. Whoops, you just left it. Go left, go left.
It says 26 inside of it.
Jeff, yeah, there.
Yeah, right
That's the
there.
storage building, right there. Yeah, there you go. You got it now.
I see. So that's the fenced in area, not the
Yeah.
border. of the
Yeah.
property. Yeah.
Hold up. What's that hashed thing that's along that? It looks like there's a fence next to the trees, but
Says red rock limestone block retaining wall. It's because of the slope. Are you talking about this brown one here?
No, this hashed one that's on the edge of the parking lot.
Not where I'm pointing right now?
yeah, that
Yeah,
is where you're
yep.
pointing.
Yep.
That's a retaining
Yeah,
wall.
it says it's a retaining wall.
Is it
It
existing?
says, it says new perimeter fence, see wood baluster fence detail. See it?
Yeah,
I don't think that's a big thing.
No, that's pointing, you're talking about up here, Dave.
No,
6 foot
no.
tall, see wooden fence detail, outdoor storage area? No?
No, down right here in the
Baluster?
right-hand corner.
See your cursor right above it
Yeah, right there.
New perimeter
Box.
fence.
and look where
New
it points.
perimeter fence.
Right.
Oh, it points to that funny dash circle thing. Brown dashes and
Notice that there's
circles.
also a 12-foot wide grassed loading dock pad. So I would expect that the end of that pad is at the height that you would want a loading dock to be. In other words,
oh, that's awesome. That's,
yeah.
sorry, that's where I keep my stuff, so I didn't know. Sorry, that's actually, I'm a tenant of this building. I will disclose my conflict of interest right now, but I didn't know there was.
So bring it back for me. So the comment that we have to the planning board is to make sure that they're not in the right of way in constructing these fences. Is that?
No, it's visibility for safety of, if people come whipping around that corner. I thought that what Will said was really accurate, that right now, if they're pedestrians and stuff, you want to make sure you can, I don't know, that's just it's a consideration.
Something to look at. There's no doubt about it. Yeah.
Okay, so I've got that, the visibility, and then also potential, be aware that once the Shirt Tail Sidewalk extension is completed, we'll be looking for some kind of a connection to that for people to go up on that side of the street, was what Anita's comment was, I believe. Anything else? Yay, that was cool. That was very cool, everybody. Except for Linda, she didn't say anything. But otherwise, it was really cool. Everybody's tired. Thank you.
Hey, Jeff, one comment, and you mentioned looking for somebody for quite a while, but the reality is you could do 10 a.m. the next, it would be like the next day. We're 16 hours difference. You're ahead.
Oh, I know. I'm very aware of that. But I think 10 a.m. is when you're in school.
No, 10 a.m. Sydney time is 6 p.m. our time.
Oh, you're right. You're right. We looked at that, but it's not just Sydney. We're going to be going all the way across. So you have to look at Perth time too, but it just makes it even earlier, like 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock. You're right. There may be a way we can do it. I just don't know for sure at this point. I'd love to be able to help and participate remotely.
She's just saying it, your boots, it's a tough position to fill. You're the man.
That's not what she's saying. She says nobody here wants to do it. And so just keep doing it, Jeff.
Well, it's
All right.
Isn't that the same thing?
It's not that far, Jeff. You guys aren't going that far.
Oh, it's on the other side of the world.
Same one.
Days.
All right, thanks. Does anybody else have anything they want to say before we bid adieu?
I want to know how far we have to go to get out of this job.
Don't look up.
Just don't look up, whatever you do. And when you're down there, don't pet the brontosaur.
All right. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Allison. Be well, everybody.
Thank
Thanks,
Good
Jeff.
night. Mhm.
All right, everybody. See ya.